Welcome, my friends. This is Maniacal Incorporated. And even though he is putting on a brave face and smiling through it all, no doubt, Uí is still angry at the loss of Scotland. We've married a claimant to the Scottish throne, but of course she can't push that claim unless there is a woman or a child in power. We could very well see a child come to power should Stephen die in the next few years. Other than that, if Una has a son, we might see about trying to install that son as the Duke of Kirken, which is actually the region that is being ruled by Bridget at the moment. Our immediate goal, however, is to wait for Cain of Dehybert to respond to our attempts to blackmail him. That is the most pressing concern at the minute for Uí, because once we get that response, it is going to set off the next chain of events as he attempts to rebuild to the position of prominence and prestige he was in before the failed crusade of the last episode. You can see in Desmond we're trying to restore control. We're going to wait for the army to rebuild somewhat. We are being told that Gilla, our candidate for the Kingdom of Jerusalem in that last failed crusade, has had another son. Onachon may grow to be strong and wise. So we're going to wait for the numbers to rebuild a small bit. I don't think we need to worry too much about it. We also have a stewardship lifestyle perk to deal with. As we've been saying for the last while, Uí is going to concentrate on the stewardship or on the architect tree, so we will take divided attention, domain limit +2. It's of no immediate benefit to us, but this is what we want. The architect trait, which will give us reduced construction time and cost. And then, maybe in the final stages of Uí's rule, we can actually concentrate on getting money together and building buildings. We were growing suspicious of our wife in the last episode, and we are told by our spy master that our wife has taken her antiquarian as her lover. I am not too sure what this is going to do for the succession. The outrage. Oh, Fiatach, you have been so brave, so strong. Words cannot describe my love for you, and now we have a perfect little daughter, do we? Do we? May you grow to be strong and wise, daughter. For a while, it genuinely looked like Uí was going to be the greatest High King of Ireland ever. We were talking King of Ireland, potential King of Wales, the man who put the Dál Fiatach on the Scottish throne. He would have a daughter as Queen of Brittany and a daughter as Queen of Aquitaine. And now he is being turned into a cuckolded embarrassment. We are sending our spy master to Mayo to find secrets. That is where the antiquarian is based. He failed in the Crusades. He failed in Scotland. Uí is going back to first principles. Can he at least beat up a small child? We're going to declare war for Duke Cain's claims, and we'll give him the entire principality. Fresh from the Crusades, we will raise our entire army just to the south, and I think they're going to give battle. Immediately, we have a Liberty faction. I'd say there's no awards for thinking who that is. It's one of those days, isn't it, Kylach? I know exactly how it feels. The King of Croatia is dead, has drank himself to death. So we were talking about the Croatian succession there a couple of episodes back. Things were looking insecure. Moildwyn has had a son who will rule after him. How many Dál Fiatach kings have now drank themselves to death? Is it 2 or 3? I can't remember. There's a bad old strain of alcoholism in this family. So Wales has started to get a bit more interesting. We are told that Lachlan is no longer our High Alamoner because he died under mysterious circumstances. This would be the son-in-law of Alice, who was murdered by Duke Cain. Cain, would you know anything about this? Would you? All seems to be going pretty well. We have put that depraved cannibal in charge of the siege forces. We're told about a scandal. My courtier, Maria, has been showing the signs of pregnancy for some time now, and everyone thought that her husband, Mordecai, was the father of the child, but it has become clear that the real father is the King of Galicia. So there's the King of Galicia. There is our sister-in-law. There's the King of Galicia. There is his daughter, our sister-in-law. Has that marriage actually gone? It has. Yeah. So yeah, the siege in Wales is going fairly well. We have captured the 12-year-old Duke of Gwynedd, and before Ferrant gets his hands on him, we'd better bring this war to an end. We will enforce our demands, so be it. And Cain, look at him. How happy he must be to have added this new duchy to his lands. He must be utterly delighted. Let's stand down the army first of all. Look at the big happy face on him. With his Crusader trait, which he doesn't deserve because he didn't take part in the Crusades. I'm not too sure how he got this. I strictly forbid you from taking part in the Crusades. You know what we're going to do. We're going to revoke the duchy. There's a chance that he won't accept. We will use our hook and we will revoke that title. Cain tells us that he has no alternative but to bow to the pressure that is put on him. He absolutely despises us now. And we are just ever so short of the money of creating the Kingdom of Wales. If only we had a rather lengthy list of people to demand money off of. I cannot, for the life of me, remember where most of this money is coming from, or why we even have hooks on these people. Some of them are family members, I think. We'll wait for you to get more money. Here is the former Queen of Scotland. Here is the current Queen of Scotland. We'll demand 50 quid from her. Ezzo has done a lot of bad things in his life. He's usually been good for money. There's a tenner. And there is a Reeve who will give us 15. And you know what? There we are. We actually now have just about the money. Finally, after decades, the dream that was originally put forward by our father, Cronon, he is finally in a position to create the Kingdom of Wales. Let's see if we can create an albino Welsh dynasty. Here is the ruler of Gwynedd that we have just deposed, and our albino daughter, Princess Eugenia. So we will seek to make an alliance between our houses. I know we've just deposed him, and they both have the albino trait. So we will send that proposal. And what we're then going to pretty much do, I'd say we'll wait for the proposal to actually come true first of all. So an alliance has been founded with him, because what we're then going to do is declare war on his brother. So his brother, on their father's death, inherited Powys. He inherited Gwynedd. And at the moment there is a threat that Gwynedd will, this entire region, or the counties I should say, under our new son-in-law's command, that they will leave, or that this guy will inherit land. It's basically telling us that there's a problem, that that land will, as things stand at the moment, leave the Kingdom of Wales. And what we will of course do is we will declare war to seize the lordship. I was just about to address the war that we are taking part in, that I did offer Powys the opportunity to become a vassal, but they refused, and what absolutely idiotic timing. Cain has finally pushed the button and is attempting to declare independence for the Hybert. I will not be threatened. There's no point rallying the troops because they are already rallied. And I'm wondering if he will actually, would we be in a position to basically redirect the army towards the capital, where he is going to start foolishly raising his army. And I think Man has come into this war. So all of our highly trained knights with their Crusader skills, I think they're going to make short work of this army. We will basically hover back and forth between these two armies at the moment. We'll try and bring the war for Powys to an end quickly. The problem is that the Isle of Man might actually have a good chunk of forces, so we might need to bring in Brittany. And Powys looks to be retreating. Let's see if we can siege down the capital. And by retreating, I imagine they are heading for Ireland. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. So an easy enough battle. We might as well, while we are up in this direction, we might as well march this way, try and take out this army. So Wales has broken out into utter anarchy, and there it is. That's what we're expecting. The Isle of Man has indeed involved itself. I can't imagine that we are on great speaking terms with the wife at this stage. She's trying to get us to browbeat one of our vassals, the mayor of Carrickfergus. I think a regular parade will suffice. There's definitely no need to be deploying soldiers at this point in time. I don't think we've any soldiers to deploy for a parade at this point in time. Our commander has been maimed. We have sent that force packing. Would we have the ability to go in against these two armies? As much as it pains me, we have called in our son-in-law and friend, the King of Brittany, and we have a grandson who will one day rule as king. So he's been called into the Independence War, because if Cain and the Isle of Man get their forces together, we could be in a bit of trouble. We're basically sending our army down, straight back down after him. We're going to siege down the capital down here, after we give him another good baiting, and we will wait for Brittany's forces to come in. Look at this mad lad, not even putting on a suit of armour. This is the second time that our spymaster tells us she can't find anything in Connacht. So we will put her on Disrupt Schemes, and I will put her in my own court. We can see Brittany's forces coming in. So what we might very well do, if they are going to land with us, is hit this joint army up here and then deal with some sieges. This war is taking a lot longer than I have expected, predominantly because of the fact it's 2 wars. We've seen Orthacoin causing trouble as a chancellor before. He's causing more trouble. Here's King Stephen. Wrote a nice poem about us once upon a time. Abdicated in favour of his absolutely depraved daughter. Orthacoin has improved relations with him, a man that we are seeking to overthrow, potentially at some stage. We're going to just send in the forces against the 2 armies. Let's see if we can actually manage to lift that siege. And here is a stab in the back, a betrayal worse than anything we have suffered so far. Worse than the loss of Scotland, worse than our mother losing the cat, worse than our wife cheating on us. Because as long as we have polygamy, we can just get more wives. Pope Ioannis has been good to us. He's given us a good chunk of money. We gave him a good chunk of money. And we went and fought in his crusade, which he led incompetently. And now he's telling us that our practice of polygamy is in strict opposition to Catholic doctrine and a sin in the eyes of God. I only wish for your salvation. Please lead your people into the light and shed yourselves of excess spouses. A dilemma indeed. The big problem is that I had been looking at potentially divorcing my wife. And it's going to be hard. Or maybe not. We're not going to lose opinion with him. We will lose 500 piety and 2 levels of devotion. Or we must uphold Catholic doctrine, 1 level of devotion, and Irish culture loses any marriage-altering traditions. We can see Amlib pondering, we can see him thinking. Polygamy hasn't served him tremendously well so far. He only has 2 sons from his many marriages, and of course many of his children, with his primary wife, are now in question. He's had a rather disastrous military campaign of recent. The loss of Scotland, the loss of the Crusade, and possibly piety and devotion to God, and a restructuring of the marriage laws in Ireland will see him gain a place in history. We will uphold Catholic doctrine. And as that war goes on, or that battle goes on, I actually forgot to click on it, we're getting a lot of very unhappy people. We've an independence faction from Leabhra. He's probably angry that he can't have lots of wives anymore. This is a rather interesting one. Here is Una Dunkeld, who we married at the end of the last episode. We're now divorcing. I am writing to inform you that I am with child, and it is most certainly yours. Since we were married when this child was conceived, there is no stain of bastardry. When the babe is born, they will be known as your legitimate offspring. Okay then. So I know a lot of people were wondering, and I was kind of wondering this as well, what happens to your additional wives when you convert, we'll say convert, from polygamy to monogamous marriages? We should nearly have switched wives and then divorced. So elevated maybe Anla to our primary wife and then divorced. Which, or what can you do? We're in against Duquesne again with our overwhelming forces. After this battle, what we're going to do is we're going to split the army in 2. We're going to send some of them to start sieging down an area. And wouldn't you just know it? Wouldn't you know that now is the time Iceland would pick to pay a visit. We've ransomed some people off. Thankfully, the majority of our allies have followed us down in this direction. I think that's actually the army pretty much annihilated. I think all the armies have been annihilated. Man has come in. We might need to turn that army around. And a war has been declared on us by England. At this stage, I don't know if this can still be said to be a continuation of the Bar Crisis. But this is pretty much what we have always feared. 1,200 troops. 9,000 belonging to England. 3,800 belonging to Iceland. They're not involved in the war together, but Iceland is causing a lot of trouble in a militarily empty Ireland. I had been hoping to use my mother's claims to the English throne to go to war to install her on the throne. The problem, of course, is that that could only occur if there was a child or a woman in power. She has claims to a few counties, but that would have just kind of caused trouble, so I would have installed my mother, or at least fought to press her claims so that Uí Néill would have inherited them. This has turned into utter anarchy. At least we're in a position to call in every single alliance we have. Let's see if it's enough. Everybody has joined in the war, even that pervert in Galicia. That incestuous pervert. Even poor old Bridget. We've used our family hook to call her in, so she's sending in about 400 troops. So we do have more troops than them. Can we bring the wars in Wales to an end? Marshal everybody together and prevent the armies from being ripped apart piecemeal? That's the question, though. Because the war in Wales could be going better. You can see that we're withdrawing from the siege in Powys. Agnes comes to us again to give out to us. She gave out to us in the last episode because we were taking her husband off to fight in the Crusades, and undoubtedly what she's giving out to us about now is that we got her husband killed. Died from internal injuries on the 11th of December, 1148. I don't remember getting that pop-up, and I don't remember seeing him dying in a war, so it must have been one of the ones here in Wales, because it has been utter chaos in Wales. She's had 2 children, and I remember that there were complaints about the heritage of one of them, at the very least. Of the 2 of them, it looks like. Unless we had a matrilineal marriage, I don't think we had. Nope. So yeah, the 2 of these children were born out of wedlock. None of them are the children of our knights. However, we do have that pure-blooded trait, but he's not actually in our court. So, Agnes, not now. Not now, Agnes. I've had to withdraw my army from Powys because the Isle of Man was sending in forces. We're beginning to see an English army coming in this direction. We are seeing a sizable English army. I'm not too sure we could defend against that. Fear not. Bridget is here. And a curse has been undone. Cain, you devil. Died of old age. It was too good for you. He has caused nothing but anarchy, and he's left it too long and too late to actually rise up against us. But he has died. We've lost some stress. I don't know if that war is going to come to an end. It looks like he's left the Independence War. He was the only member of that Independence War. Our future son-in-law is asking that his future wife visits him at the court. Sure. And with drums and music And the sound of shields and fire in the background. We can finally finish off the architect trait. Do I want to stay here? Do I want to stay in the wealth focus tree? I would like to keep that 10% income. But of all things, I think I'm actually going to switch to Marshal. And try and get some of the Overseer traits, especially the Control growth. So we're going to go for Dread and Control growth. And this really does show the mindset that Amlib is in at this stage in his life. We have a whole heap of things going on over here. Our divorced wife, Una, has had a son, who she wants to name after us. May you grow to be strong and wise, my son. Wales has just turned into utter anarchy now at this stage. I know I've said that a lot, but it really has. I'm basically just trying to complete any siege. There you go. Our son-in-law has taken somebody hostage. That is going to bring the Independence War to an end. We will enforce our demands. So that puts the new Duke of de Hybert behind bars. So be it. Let's merge this army and let's see if we can send it. Will anybody come with me? Everybody's going to come with me. And if one of those armies actually got out first, it would be tremendous. I think one of them has indeed got out. We've managed to hit them early. This is probably the largest battle that we are ever going to be involved in. And we've managed to bring in overwhelming forces against the English side. We're getting a lot of pop-ups. The King of Brittany is dead. Those are not the kind of pop-ups we want. Here is that massive battle that was just fought. No casualties on either side. A lot of wounded people, however. Here is Thorfrith leading the English forces. There's Brazil Conon, just one kill short. And look at the absolutely massive number of troops that were fighting on our side, or even just knights. I said nobody was killed, but I was actually wrong. Some of the French forces suffered one casualty. And like I said, we have suffered the loss of our son-in-law, died of cancer. Our grandson, however, the new King of Brittany, has entered the war on our side. So the forces will be remaining. We need to do something. We have 10,000 troops marching on the Isle of Man's forces, but I have no idea how many of them are actually going to be involved. Aquitaine is going to be sending its forces home as it is dealing with its own internal upheaval, which we will of course join. So we have sent our 1,800 forces in against the Isle of Man. Phelimid Naranov has died. A betrothal has taken place between our daughter and the future King of Aquitaine, I think. And of course, what timing as that war breaks out. We're going to see English forces, I'm sure, wandering around here in the south. They're conquering more parts of Wales. There's not much we can do with them at the moment. Some of our own forces have actually split off and gone in to England itself. It is only too right that the Pope would give us a substantial sum of money, 232 gold, considering all that we have done for him. We're going to continue our siege and try and bring this war to an end at the very least. England is going to siege down more parts of Wales, giving them more war score, but we can't be hopping back and forth in all of these wars. Hopefully Bridget would go up and help Galicia's forces if the Isle of Man comes in against them. Of course, I am forgetting that most of the people are not actually involved in this war. The Isle of Man is coming in against us. It looks like we're actually going to win that battle, but again, we don't have a huge amount of troops actually taking part in it. We have lost part of Wales, and England's forces are going out to sea, which is a bit worrying. So most of England's forces have chosen just to go out and land in Wales, and to leave and to come back and to leave again. We're seeing a hefty army defeating one of our allies. And in the midst of it all, the man on whose shoulder the future of the dynasty rests, Crusader, comes of age. Educated initially by Brichinna. I forget whose tutelage we handed him over to of recent. He is a mastermind philosopher. He is still married or still engaged to his cousin, Bridget, who is assisting here with the war against England. I was thinking of breaking that marriage, but it's entirely possible that we will allow it to go ahead and have Crusader assist Bridget in retaking the Kingdom of Scotland. I don't think he'll go into the army with a 6, but it's entirely possible that he will. We have brought one war to an end. We have seized this territory, dragged it into our kingdom, and now we should be in a position to start hunting down these broken up chunks of the English army. More upheaval in court. There is a plot to kill our former physician. We have our spy master back at court who is dealing with that, or I would hope so at the very least. I think we're going to start getting our armies in ahead of the English, so we will start dealing a significant amount of damage to them before they can bring their troops in piecemeal. Laura has wounded his relative. An alliance has ended since Gillicullum, and Ains are no longer married. Your brother Gillicullum has been slain. Here's the result of that massive battle that has just ended. And if we scroll down, we can see that Roland was killed by Prince Gillicullum. And if we come down a bit further, poor Gillicullum himself was slain shortly afterwards by this figure. The English forces lost 3 knights in total. Filbert killing 1, and Muel Brassel Conon. But our alliance through Gillicullum to the Duke of Aquitaine has now come to an end, so we still do have our alliance to the kingdom itself, but the alliance with the duchy is gone, and that was bringing in a substantial amount of troops. They are still involved in the war against England, however, and I'm unsure of when this actually started, Mercia is also waging a separate war for the same goal as England. What we can see is that England has declared war for the leader of Mercia's claim, but the leader of Mercia has also started a separate war. So I've had to go and call in the vassals again, or the allies I should say, because we have a substantial army down here that none of my current allies are at war with, so we're going to try and just siege down this area. Wait for the allies to come in and possibly even try and seek out more alliances. To begin the process of forming some new alliances, we will dissolve some existing alliances. Now that we have become suspicious of the High Queen, we will request a divorce. And I hadn't actually seen this, but our wife is still insular, and on those grounds, the Pope is willing to give us a divorce. So we divorce Fiatach. We might need to reassess our strategy. I was planning on moving the troops down in this direction. However, We do have this army coming up towards us, and no doubt they are plotting on hitting our army, and we don't actually have a lot of these vassals dragged into this war just yet. We are in a position to get married, so we could actually re-establish immediately that alliance with the Duchy of Aquitaine. And although she is pregnant with our brother's child, and she has lover's pox, we are going to marry our sister-in-law to drag the Duchy of Aquitaine back into the series of wars that it is involved in Wales. They already have their forces here. There's no point sending them or getting a new alliance. We're seeing enemy allies joining the war on Mercia's side. The Duke of Aquitaine has accepted. And he has accepted joining the war to defeat Mercia. We have a wedding celebration. And I think it goes without saying that we are going to take that money. We're seeing the massive English forces heading up to the north of Wales again. What we're going to do is lift the siege of one of these areas. And we're going to march in against Mercia's army. Our allies will come together. It would be fantastic if we could hit one of them early. We have lost a commander, and it's entirely possible that is somebody dead due to wounds. Leinchuk will be taking command. And Mercia has gotten out, and I don't know, are these more allies of theirs that are coming in this direction? So what we might have to do is go north instead and hit the English army. Not a brilliant alliance, not one I would have gone for if it wasn't for the fact that we badly need troops. We're going to marry our 11-year-old daughter to the 20-year-old Duke of Upper Burgundy. We're already getting suspicious of our new wife, asking if she has another. She would never disrespect the sanctity of our marriage. We will have her every move watched. We are a bit suspicious of her. I have hired some new mercenaries. My wife has given birth to a daughter. Of course, this isn't our daughter. This is our brother's daughter. We'll go for a good Irish name, Sinead. May you grow to be wise and strong and wise. We have a total of 8 troops in Downpatrick and 902 mercenaries. A couple more, actually. We're going to send them across. I think the fastest thing to do. It breaks my heart, but we will send them across by sea. We have formed an alliance with the Duke of Upper Burgundy. We're going to call him in as quickly as possible. We will call him into our war against Mercia. And then we will get him into our war against England, which is actually going fairly well. Our court artificer has died. Mercia is bringing up its troops behind us. So if they were to hit us while we're still waging war against England, we could be in a bit of trouble. Leinchuk was wounded by the knight that killed Gillicullum. So that's another hefty baiting for the English. We're going to try and bring some sieges to an end, but predominantly what we're doing is waiting for Upper Burgundy to bring its forces across, and then we are going to move in against Mercia's troops there to the south, and from what I can see, here comes Galicia. Well, here's a bit of a shock. Our spymaster has discovered that Leinchuk's adulterous wife was the one who had Lachlan murdered. I thought it was Cain. Heartless and dishonourable. Imprison her. Mercia completes a siege, begins moving with its forces. I think they're actually coming in against our mercenary army. They are indeed, which is a tremendous pity because we were on the verge of sieging down an area. Our allies are moving, so I might actually hold back just for a second while those armies go in. It would be great if we could complete the siege. We have. I think we might get in time to assist. Or maybe not. Maybe we've left it too late and there's another 3,000 troops coming in. We left it too late. We left it too late. We put 10,000 troops into that battle, but we brought them in piecemeal. We stayed back. We managed to siege an area, but the war score does not reflect that victory. And what we've seen is that one of our knights has been taken captive. A lot of knights have been taken captive. Ulgarg Mac Dálach has been captured, and another knight that joined with him, Brennan, was killed. And of course, we saw that in 1148, Scaloige, who joined alongside them, was also killed. So that is all three of them removed at the moment. So that was a hefty defeat. We are so desperate for money that we are even blackmailing our divorced wife for the secret that we knew who her lover was. So she presumably doesn't want her prestige to be hit any harder by having that revealed. And of course, here is our brother's ex-wife. She's our wife and sister-in-law. The burning sensation in my groin was growing so unbearable I had to excuse myself and flee to my chambers. Well, a burning groin is the price to pay for 2,500 soldiers. Another daughter, Fiatach, named after her mother, has been married out for 1,000 troops. We will immediately call him into the war. Our forces have retreated up in this direction where we can actually merge them together. I think these are all part of the one group, possibly. Because Mercia is falling back, we might be able to hit these. While Mercia is divided, but Mercia has about 7,500 troops. We're learning more terrible things about Orthacoin. Surely, all his ties to Wales. He's becoming somebody that we are losing a lot of respect for. Loinchuk is willing to teach us a lesson about the martial lifestyle. We could gain +20 with him, or gain respected figurehead, which I think is definitely what we will go with. We will get the 50 martial lifestyle one way or another. I'm wondering, do I want to? I suppose, yeah, that was to be assumed, and of course the reason that we have become overwhelmed by stress. I never thought I would see this day, that we would become overwhelmed, but it is because of the death of our mother, Gunhilda, who drank herself to death after losing our cat. Cailleach drank himself to death. Our mother drank herself to death. It only makes sense that in this dire time, we also would turn to the drink. This war, or these wars, have delivered nothing but loss and travesty and tragedy. And Loinchuk, one of the greatest champions that the kingdom has ever known, the man who put down the rebellion in Scotland just after we had installed a puppet government, our champion, our long-serving marshal, Loinchuk, after many's a brave battle, has died due to complications from flagellation. I don't think we should put that in the paper. Loinchuk, the poor man, had a troubled life. We imprisoned his wife shortly before he died. When we found out that she had murdered a member of our family, we are most likely going to execute her. And here's somebody else who's having a bad old time. Brazil Conon, because of course his wife died. Our mother, Gunhilda. Look at the prestige he has though. This is a man whose name will live in memory, and he will now serve as Marshal to the Kingdom of Ireland. The royal court is absolutely wrecked with paint. Look at all these red lines over the... Oh wait, no, that's the wallpaper. That's meant to look like that. Caitlin, sitting on the floor, surrounded by spilled paint and pieces of canvas. She's wrecking the place. Let's see who she is. She is the daughter of Leinchuk and his imprisoned and soon-to-be executed wife. We'll let her continue. I don't know what drove them to do it, but the forces allied to Mercia wandered north and have allowed themselves to be caught out with many of our allies coming in boats. So jumping straight off the boats and belting into them. That was actually England's allies. I don't even know who I'm fighting anymore. We're in a position to enforce our demands to bring the war to an end against England. We will absolutely enforce those demands. And that at least will start to level out the war some bit. We'll have to make sure that all of our allies are still involved. As far as I know, they are. Because I think we were predominantly using them to fight against Mercia. Mercia is the one causing all the trouble. But now we are in a position to focus our attention solely on Mercia. We have managed to get a slight numerical advantage. But they have a good lead in terms of war score. So I thought these guys were allied to Mercia. They weren't, which makes their decision even more confusing because they had pushed very far into Wales. Here is the King of Ireland. Wait, what? So here is our... I don't even know what relation he is to us now, because of course he is the father of one of his grandchildren. Mordecai, don't look at me like that. I didn't know this was going to happen. Don't look at me like that. I was going to make a comment about how everything is in tatters. The army is in tatters. The knights are in tatters. We have lost a ton of highly trained and skilled knights who had the Crusader trait. I was going to mention that the finances are in tatters. Where the hell did I get 1,000 gold from? Did the King of England give me that money when he brought that war to an end? I wasn't watching. We're going to use it to invite some knights. So we'll send out the Herald to summon those. We will get some mercenaries together. And I think with the war front now stabilised, we should be in a position to deal with Mercia. And then return the favour to Aquitaine? Aquitaine. And go out and assist them in their war. They seem to be doing alright. But this has been an absolutely hectic state of affairs that I did not imagine a simple war to take a single county would collapse into. I'm sure the King of France felt that way once upon a time as well. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Thank you for mourning the loss of the great knights of the kingdom. And I hope you will join me on the next one, when we bring this war to an end one way or another.